Hello everyone, this is Andrew from Crown Academy of English. Today we're doing a very important lesson all about the passive voice. So, in today's lesson you will learn the form of the active voice, because we're going to compare the active voice to the passive voice. So it's very important that we do a very quick revision of this first. Then we will look at the form of the passive voice. I will then explain why we use the passive voice, and we'll also look at the passive with irregular verbs. And in fact, throughout the lesson we will look at the meaning and use of the verb allow in the active and passive voices. So we're going to use allow as an example verb, and we're going to compare the active with the passive. And there are some exercises at the end of the video, so make sure you watch the whole lesson and test your understanding at the end. Okay? So, very quick revision of the active voice. If you understand this, this will really help you understand the passive. So as I said, we're going to use the verb allow as an example during this lesson. So the pronunciation is allow, allow. And here is the present simple. It's regular, it's a regular verb. I allow, you allow, he, she or it allows with an S. We allow, you allow, and they allow. So very simple. The past simple is allowed, and the past participle is also allowed. So when a verb is regular, a regular verb, often the past simple form and the past participle is the same. But that is not the case with irregular verbs. Often with irregular verbs, or some irregular verbs, the past simple and past participle are different, and I'll discuss that later in this video. So some quick examples. So the meaning of allow, first of all, let's look at the meaning of this verb. So it means to give permission to someone to do something, okay, to authorize someone to do something. And a common structure is subject followed by allow followed by the object, and the object is often a person, followed by the infinitive verb. My manager allows me to work from home. Okay, my manager allows me to work from home. So this is the present simple, present. So this means my manager gives permission to me to work from home. My manager authorizes me to work from home. Okay, so the verb, this is the direct object. So this is an object pronoun, and here's the infinitive. The teacher does not allow us to talk during exams. Okay? The teacher does not allow us to talk during exams. Now here's the important bit. This is very important. In the active voice, the verb allow has a subject, and it's in pink. So we have a subject here, and this is a characteristic of the active voice. So we have a verb, a main verb, and the verb has a subject. So therefore, in this example, when we use the active voice, we know who is giving permission. So who is allowing me to work from home? Well, it's my manager. Who does not allow us to talk during exams? It's the teacher. So with the active voice, we get more information. We know who is giving permission. Okay? And as we'll see later in this lesson, very soon, you will see that that is not the case with the passive voice. Okay? This subject, when we look at the passive voice, this subject disappears. Okay? We no longer have this information when we use the passive voice. Let's look at some examples of the active in the past. Okay, and again, this will help you understand the passive. So it's the same form, subject plus allow, but allow will now be in the past tense, followed by the object and the infinitive. The police officer allowed them to enter the building. The police officer allowed them to enter the building. So this is the past simple form. Okay? Mark's parents allowed him to go to the concert. Okay? So this means that Mark's parents gave permission to Mark to go to the concert. And again, we're in the past simple tense here. Okay? And again, look, we have the subject. So we know who gave permission to them to enter the building. It's the police officer. We know who gave permission to Mark. It's his parents. And as we'll see in the passive, we no longer have this information. Okay, now let's look at the passive voice. Okay. So the form is, we have the verb be followed by a past participle. Not the past simple, but the past participle. So we have the verb be, and if we are in the present tense of the passive, the verb be will be in the present followed by the past participle. So we can see that here. So in the present tense of the passive voice, we have the verb be in the present tense. So everything in blue is the verb be in the present. I am, you are, he is, she is, it is, we are, you are, they are. So that is simply the verb be in the present tense. And the past participle doesn't change for all of them. Allowed, allowed, allowed. Okay, so I am allowed, you are allowed, etc. And the past tense, so the past tense of the passive voice, the only thing that changes is the tense of the verb be. So the verb be is now in the past tense. I was, you were, he was, she was, it was, we were, you were, and they were. And always with the past participle, which does not change. Okay? So now let's look at the examples and the meaning. So we're going to convert the active voice into the passive voice. So here is the sentence that we have already seen. My manager allows me to work from home. Remember, we have the information here. We know who allows me to work from home because we have a subject in pink. But this subject is now going to disappear. And this is the passive. I am allowed to work from home. I am allowed to work from home. So notice I am, this is the present tense of the verb be, because in the active, allows is in the present. And it's followed by the past participle. I am allowed to work from home. But why is it I? Well, we take the object, we have the object pronoun here, or the object here is me, and we convert that into a subject. So the subject pronoun is I. Okay, so we have me here, and that becomes I. And the manager disappears. Okay, so we do not know really who is giving me permission to work from home. But that's because it's not really important. It's not really an important piece of information. The important thing in a sentence is that I have permission. Okay, so that's what this means. I am allowed. And this is a past participle. This is not a past simple form. Okay, it is the same as the past simple, but that is only because it is a regular verb. So it's a coincidence. But you must understand that this is a past participle. Okay, I'm allowed to work from home. So why do we use the passive voice? Well, in fact, I have already answered that question. So let me explain it again. So in the active form, we have my manager allows me to work from home. And it's giving us lots of information. But the subject of allow, it's not very important to the message of the sentence. Do we really need to know who gives me permission to work from home? Surely the most important thing to understand is that I have permission to work from home. So we have permission to work from home. That is the important message here. So it is better, that is why it is better to use the passive voice for this particular verb. So when we're talking about permission and allowing, this is more common. I'm allowed to work from home. So conclusion, with the passive, it's not really important who gives me permission. And we don't even mention it. Okay. Now let's look at some more examples. Let's continue with the present. So remember this example. The teacher does not allow us to talk during exams. So here we have allow in the present simple. And this is a negative, does not allow us to talk during exams. So in the passive, this becomes, we are not allowed to talk during exams. So we no longer have this information. This is the subject. And the subject now disappears. And we take the object of allow, which is us. So us is an object pronoun, first person plural. And we take that and we make it a subject of the verb be. So we now have we, which is the first person plural subject of the verb be. This is the present tense. So this is the verb be is also in the present tense. And we say we are not allowed because it's a negative. And again, this is a past participle. It's not a past simple, it's a past participle. We are not allowed to talk during exams. Okay? And there's no mention of a teacher. We don't know if it's the teacher or maybe the principal. It's not important. And in fact, we can deduce that it is a teacher from the context. Okay? Now let's look at the past. So in the active, the police officer allowed them to enter the building. The police officer allowed them to enter the building. So this is the past tense because it's the past simple, ed. So this is the past simple. Okay, past simple. And in the passive, this becomes they were allowed to enter the building. They were allowed to enter the building. So them is the third person plural object, so it becomes the third person plural subject. This is a past tense, so the verb be is also a past tense. They were. Okay, so we don't say they are. They are is the present. They were is the past tense of the verb be. And again, this is a past participle. This is a past simple, but this is a past participle. It's the same, but it's only the same because it is a regular verb. Okay? And another example. So Mark's parents allowed him to go to the concert. So we have the past tense, past simple tense. And in the passive, this becomes Mark was allowed to go to the concert. Mark was allowed to go to the concert. So him is the object of allowed, and it is the third person singular masculine. Third person singular masculine. And him is referring to Mark. So we can actually use Mark's name here. We can say Mark was allowed. Or we can say he was allowed if we want. But if we know his name, then we use the name. So Mark was allowed to go to the concert. It's the past tense, so we use the past tense of the verb be. And again, we use the past participle. Okay? This is the past simple, but this is the past participle because that is the form of the passive voice. Okay? So we have used allowed because it is regular. It's easy. It's an easy verb. It is regular. And it's easy because the past participle is the same as the past simple. But now let's look at some irregular verbs. So be careful with the passive and irregular verbs because often the past participle is not the same as the past simple. Let me give you an example. So we have a different verb here. Someone stole my car yesterday. Someone stole my car yesterday. So stole is the past simple form of the verb steal. And in the passive, this becomes my car was stolen yesterday. My car was stolen yesterday. Okay, so notice here the past participle is not the same as the past simple. It's different. So this is why irregular verbs are harder to form in the passive voice, because the past participle is irregular. So this is an example of an irregular verb. The base form is steal. The past simple is stole, which you see here in the active voice, but the passive uses the past participle and it is stolen. So this is wrong. My car was stealed yesterday and my car was stole yesterday. That is also wrong. So the conclusion is you must learn the past participle form of irregular verbs. You have no choice. There's no other way to do it. You must learn the past participle of irregular verbs. So yes, it is very important to learn the past participles of irregular verbs. But don't worry, I have a video about this. So I recommend this video on my channel. This is my video. The link is in the description and it is also on the screen now in the cards. So you should see a link on the top right of this screen, a link to that video. I recommend you watch it. Okay, exercise time. There are 5 questions for you. So I want you to convert these sentences from the active voice to the passive voice. So number 1, Mr. Jones allowed me to leave early. Number 2, the manager doesn't allow us to wear jeans. Number 3, the manager didn't allow them to smoke during the meeting. And 4, the photographer took lots of photos at the wedding. Okay? Now be careful of number 4. That is an irregular verb. Okay? So I'll give you a few seconds. I advise you to pause the video and I'll start giving you the answers in 10 seconds. So if you need some time, pause the video and then start it again when you're ready. Okay, so I'm going to give you the answers now in 3 seconds. So pause again if you need more time. I'm going to give you the answers in 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so question 1. The answer is, I was allowed to leave early. Number 2, the answer is, we are not allowed to wear jeans. Number 3, they weren't allowed to smoke during the meeting. And finally, number 4, remember this one has an irregular verb. So the answer is, lots of photos were taken at the wedding. So we have, this is the verb take. The base form is take. The past simple is took, which you see here in the active voice. But the past participle is taken. Taken. So we have to say lots of photos were taken at the wedding. Okay? So tell me in the comments below how many correct answers you got. And if you enjoyed this video, please share it on social media. Thank you very much. So there we are. That's the end. This was a long lesson, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you're preparing for the IELTS, then click here for information about our online course.